Yo, everybody, how you all doing on this beautiful Friday afternoon? You're gonna have to bear with me a little bit. I've been a little bit under the weather for the last couple of days, but I did want to get a quick stream out before we get into the weekend to take a look and see where we might be headed and what we might be looking for in terms of Bitcoin, some of the other sex pairs, and maybe we'll get into a chart request or two. Let's take a look through the chat really quick. See who we got here. Just let me know if the mic is loud enough and if the music is quiet enough. I see we got Moonar in the house. Moonar, GM, buddy. Thank you for being here. Jay Buck says, thank you so much for your TG group and streams. Learning a lot. Well, I appreciate you being here, Jay Buck. Thank you for showing up. Mr. Fromage says GM. Radu779, my boy Tarzan, GM. Munar says the mic can be a little bit louder, but the music is fine. You know what? I may actually just turn the music off today because I do want to do a quick one. And being that I am a little under the weather, I want to make sure that you guys can hear me clearly and then it's not muffled. So let me just do that. Second. There we go. So how's everybody doing this Friday afternoon? Market seems to be in a little bit of a indecisive spot. I'll pull up my screen and we can get this underway. So what do we have here? We have the Bitcoin weekly chart. Still not much has changed. We're still dealing with this weekly bearish structure and just sort of chopping around down through here. Not much happening in terms of the higher time frames. You can see 3-day, not much has changed. Daily is where it starts to get a little bit interesting because we had this daily fair value gap. That price managed to close above, but then the day after decided to close back below and is showing rejection off of that daily level that we had marked out from a few days back, right? It had put in a bunch of sweeps, SFP closed above. Now it's closed back below. And is it rejecting off of that level? It might be. I think what we can sort of say to ourselves is if Bitcoin can get back above this level, then you have a signal to get long. But I think from here, it's a little bit difficult to say. H4 looks like it's trying to push back up into there. I've been watching a couple levels earlier today. I was watching this level here, and I was hoping that we might get an SFP on the 4-hour of this level as a trigger to get long, which we didn't actually get. It closed below, but now it's looking like it's trying to push up. So in terms of trade here on Bitcoin, for at least for me and the way that I like to trade, there isn't really a setup at the moment. I think you can watch what happens if price gets back up here and closes back above this 84.5 and change level. Then you have a decent signal to go long because then you just put your stop down underneath these levels here with an aim for it to long back up, maybe up to this H4 level, maybe up to here. We don't know yet, but it's still too early to say. I think so long as price is below that level, the long isn't really clear. And the short isn't overly clear either. If we pull up the Monday range, we can see how it's been trading the Monday range pretty reliably, right? We had the Monday range shut. It lost it as a deviation, recaptured the bottom of the Monday range, and then it sent beyond the extremity of the Monday range. But then as soon as it closed back within a potential deviation there, it did an underside retest and sold off. Now we're just sort of hugging near the middle of the Monday range. You could say to yourself, okay, it's recaptured the mid-range. So now we want to try and get back to the Monday high. It's just it's such a small range this Monday range this week that you're not really capturing much upside there, right? So that I think the way that I'm viewing it, it's much more reliable at the moment that if Bitcoin can recapture that level there, you have a trigger to get long. Something I was looking at as well is if we open the BTCD chart on daily, it looks like it's attempting to put in a daily SFP of this level here. Now, if we close like this, it's still 3.5 hours until close. This could signify one of two things. It's either if we are going to get a move up, that Bitcoin is going to outperform to the upside, or the inverse of that could mean that if we dump, alts are just going to dump harder. And we can see total 3 on 3-day. It's had it bounce right up into the 3-day supply. It's also bounced up into the daily supply. And that trajectory, it was, a pretty decent channel moving up, but now it's sort of started to roll over. And, if we are going to get some sort of drop on Bitcoin, that this would drop harder, which would give confluence with BTCD looking like it may want to go up from here. So unfortunately, there's not really too much to work with in terms of Bitcoin. Like we're in a bit of a wait and see situation where you don't want to be getting long early here, at least for the system that we use. You don't want to be trying to long this early because it is looking heavy. Well, not necessarily heavy, but it is showing rejection underneath that level. One thing of note, though, so the H4 is still bullish, right? It's still doing its bullish stair stepping. And if we're just going to take a setup off the H4, like here's your H4 demand, and look at exactly where it tagged, right? It came down into H4 demand. I would have really loved for that to have been an SFP because then we would have had, okay, tags H4 demand with an SFP. Then you have a clear invalidation with a trigger to go long. Right now, it's just sort of like it could go either way, if that makes sense to you guys. Like we're sitting at a inflection point, right? And it is really worth pointing out and remembering that we're still high time frame bearish. So as much as we want to look for reasons to get long, doing that without a clear trigger for a counter trend is in a bit of a tight spot. There we go. But I do think this level here is a good inflection because we can see we lost it, underside rejected, but it did tag this H4 demand. So if it can recapture that level, excuse me, say you get an H4 close back above there, well, then I think you can long and you put your stop down here. For a scalp, I don't think we're looking at this as like a hero trade of, okay, we've caught the Pico bottom and we're going to ride this back to new highs. I don't think we're anywhere near that environment yet. You have to remember when something like weekly structure gets lost and turns bearish, like that can often take a lot of time before it resolves that move, eats through that move to find a floor, rebuild accumulation to start to send back up. I have noticed, though, and some smart people have been pointing out the fact that Bitcoin price action, rather than being correlated to the 4-year cycle and the scarcity cycle of the asset, like reduced supply, reduced mining supply, lately it's been more correlated with ETF flows, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like they're the main drivers of large amounts of capital flowing in and out of Bitcoin. Well, this move here correlated with a lot of outflows, and the outflows have started to soften, and there's been spurts of inflows starting. So, this could be a multi-week pattern of accumulation down here, and maybe we come down and take out this low again. Maybe it actually comes down and tags the monthly level. We don't know, but I don't think we should be getting ahead of ourselves into thinking that this is just going to immediately resolve back to the upside and we're back into a bull market. We need to be aware of what the high time frame is saying. And a move like that, an aggressive move like that, like even see here, we had an aggressive move up. Well, it took weeks and weeks and weeks of version of distribution, right? Before resolving to the downside. Well, we've had a big impulse to the downside. This could take weeks, right? Like if we zoom out and go back to the similar fractal that occurred in 2021, this was, after that drop, it occurred mid-May. It wasn't until mid-June that it finally found a bottom to start to go up, right? So as much as we all want to be like, okay, maybe we can move out of this rather quickly, and this is only going to take, realistically, this has been 3 weeks. I just don't think that's realistic. I'm all for it. If that's going to happen, I would be thrilled if that took place, because of course we'd much rather be in a bullish market structure on Bitcoin and overall in the market, but we just need to be aware of some of the realities of the situation. But I do think if you get a close back above that level, then you have a trigger to get long, right? Like you can see here, this level has been an inflection point, right? Like rejected. Well, then it flipped it. And we were looking for a bounce for continuation there. Well, as of yet, it's lost that level. So I think you get back above that 84.5 and change level with an H4 candle, then you can look to long back up to here and potentially back up to 90K, but it's too early to say or to think that that's going to happen. We just have to go with our if this, then that scenarios. If that, then this scenarios. Just looking in the chat again. JJ, what's good, buddy? Thank you for being here. Appreciate you showing up as you always do. Oh, and before I forget, I forgot to run through all of the formalities that we run before we dive into these. I am 0xRapture, and this is Astrology for Men. Coffee, charts, and a cigarette. Well, I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. Although the focus as of late has been on majors and perps, and I've been having a really great time trading perps markets. It's kind of been nice to not have to do all the due diligence and research into the new launches and the as fun and as explosive as the upside is in those scenarios. Like it's a little bit mentally and physically exhausting, especially when it's go nonstop for months on end. Well, the pace on perps has been nice because you outline your high time frame areas. You wait for your setups and your triggers. You set some alerts, and when they unfold, you go through your if this, then that's, and if you have an entry, you take your setup and you set your stop, you let it run, and either it hits your target or you get stopped out, and it's a lot less involved, which has opened the door to being able to focus on other areas of the market. People that have been following along in the Daily Edge Telegram channel, where I post my journal thoughts on the daily, will be aware that I've been taking this time to play around with new chains and DeFi protocols and having fun farming yield and testing things out. And it's a good time to do that stuff and to catch up on reading. Like being at the tip of the spear on the new launch market requires full focus. And I put out a post the other day that for the time being, my focus hasn't been there. And the last couple of times that I've aped into a new launch, I've been literally aping into the top, and only to come back hours later to be massively underwater. So it requires your 100% focus. There are signs of revival. The activity on BSC, on Binance chain, there's been a lot of runners recently, and I know people that are starting to migrate over to Binance. And actually, the other day, I put out a post that I was saying, okay, the metrics on PancakeSwap, the main DEX, like the Uniswap of Binance, Smart Chain, PancakeSwap, has been putting in higher 24-hour fees than Uniswap, than Jupiter, than Radium, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see how bullish that chart is. And I said, you know, rather than, if your focus isn't going to be in the trenches on that end of the new launch sphere, well, what are ways that you can capture value or capture upside? Well, Cake has seen quite a nice move to the upside, right? Now it's looking like it may put in a daily SFP here, in which case if Cake price comes down into this region, I'd be looking to get long. You'd have to monitor that with the activity on BSC and see if the volumes are still there to support it. But I think there's a strong case that if you get some sort of PA down through here, maybe it's an SFP down here, that you want to get long on BSC. Or sorry, on Cake. It's an easy way to capture exposure without having to be deep in the trenches. Like, I love being in the trenches. I love being in the private group chats that I'm in with the lads and grinding through the trenches. But you have to give it 100% of your focus. Excuse me. You can't half-ass the new launch market because it moves so fast. And if you're not early, there's a high probability that you're going to be exit liquidity. Now, BSC pairs have been doing rather decently, so, and they haven't been speed running as quickly as the Solana pairs. So it might be somewhere where you want to focus your efforts. If you are still in the trenches, if you're like, okay, I want to be aping new launches, I want to be deep in the shitters trenches, well, maybe that's where you want to focus. We can actually take a look at BNB. The BNB chart. Now, similar to Bitcoin, it's still in a 3-day bearish range, but it is showing strength. I mean, you can see that move there comparatively to Bitcoin, right? Like, that's a major difference in the 3-day. And that is worth noting. And it's reflecting the fact that there's activity taking place. Like, we all know that the Solana trenches have been pretty dead recently, and you can just see that reflected in the chart, right? Like, this is the 3-day Solana chart, 3-day Bitcoin chart, and then you open up the BNB chart, you're like, oh, what's happening here, right? Now it is up into supply on 3-day. You can also see that it put in an SFP there, and it may be attempting another one on this 3-day. So you don't want to be getting overly bullish into supply, but you do want to look for reasons to get long if it gives you the setups. And given that the ecosystem has been hot lately, it's a much better looking token to long than Bitcoin, giving larger moves, BNB and Cake giving larger moves. Let me clean some of this up real quick. Get rid of that old outline there. But we can see that it is showing some signs of weakening, right? You had your, I mean, look at how reliable H4 has been lately, right? H4, range low. You had your H4 range high. Excuse me. You got an H4 range high SFP, which sent it back down into demand and then back for a nice move up. But it is showing some signs of rolling over here. Like, this comes back to what I was talking about on Bitcoin, right? Like, if Bitcoin manages to recapture this level, then some of these stronger alts are where you want to be looking to long. Something like a BNB. But if Bitcoin decides that it wants to roll over here, well, then a lot of these other coins are up into high time frame supply, and you need to be aware about that, right? Like, you don't want to be getting overly bullish up into an area where you'd expect rejection based on probability to take place. And this would be one of those areas. You can take a look at hype real quick. Now that token has been strong. See, now this is circle back on that Bitcoin chart of that area where we flipped the level and then now it's trading underneath. Well, look, hype flipped this area that was supply into demand, and then it came back down and tagged and bounced. Like that's what you want to see from Bitcoin, but Bitcoin at the moment lost that level. But you can see here on H4, you actually had a beautiful SFP set up here on an H4 range low, and now it's gone on to put in an H4 higher high. Like it had lost H4 structure, well, it's recaptured it. And that entry right there on that SFP was a great trigger to go long in an area where you were looking for reasons to go long. Like the reason why I'm not currently long Bitcoin is because I really do like an H4 SFP when I'm looking for a trigger, and I just haven't had that here. But this is what we were looking for, is like, had that been an SFP, there would have been your trigger to go long. Well, hype put that SFP in. And which also highlights that we talk about so often is you want to trade the chart in front of you, right? Like, yes, you want to be aware of what's taking place in the market. You also want to trade the chart in front of you. And it gave you an H4 SFP entry, and now it's made an H4 higher high, right? And daily's looking pretty strong for a move potentially back up into that 1630 area or all the way up into this 3-day supply. Right? Like this is a 3-day supply zone up here. So if I were looking for something to long, hype would definitely be high on that list. Now, obviously, you don't want to be longing after such a move like that. You don't want to be longing into the top. You want to wait for some sort of setup. What that setup might look like, we don't quite know yet, but maybe it's a retrace back down into here. Right? Maybe you get something like that as an entry to get long. You also have this area down here of demand now on H4. But I think dips back down into this area for hype are a good long opportunity. All right, like we can outline this H4 demand now. Here's your range low. There's your H4 range low. We don't know where the swing high is yet on H4, but it's definitely closed as a higher high. So then you're looking for that higher low to get long on something like hype. But definitely showing strength against the market. Another one I'm seeing on the timeline a lot is Fartcoin. So let's take a look at Fartcoin. And I mean, it is putting in a nice move. The other day, it was quite a short setup though, when it put in a 3-day SFP up there. But while doing that move, it made a daily higher high, right? Like this was your daily range high to range low. You got to close above the bearish daily range. And now we're forming a bullish daily range. And it's already put in a nice bounce from here. So Fart and hype, definitely two coins that if you're looking to long, because the way rotations happen, right? Like the ones that are strong, you want to be looking to long those. Now, I wouldn't be looking to long here right now after such a move. But we can see that H4 had remained bullish the whole time, right? This is your H4 range low. It's not very useful because it's so wide, but it flipped daily and has given a nice reaction off of the level that was flipped on daily. Depending on how this daily closes, Like if daily closes somewhere like this, well, then you have a decent looking range to base a trade off of. Because if you get some sort of sweep again up here, well, then you could be looking to short. But it is looking quite strong. Are there any questions from the chat at all right now? Again, I'm not going to run this stream for too long as I haven't been feeling great the last couple of days, but I did want to hop on and just give you guys a quick look at some of the tokens and how they're performing in the market. Let's take a look at Barra. What's going on here? You take a look at daily. I mean, there's a couple levels that I'm watching there, right? Like this was a beautiful SFP entry for a long, and then a daily level as an SFP for a short. From a level like this, there isn't really much to go off of. You know, if it gives you another SFP here, well, then you have another potential short entry. It's kind of followed that squiggle that I drew 1 or 2 streams ago, which is interesting to take note of. H4 has been pretty choppy, though. Just taking a look for structure on H4. Okay, so here's your H4 range high. It's just giving you an H4 SFP. So if you wanted to look for a token that you might short, let's delete this now because no longer valid. Here's your H4 range high. Here's your H4 range low. Why is that the range? Well, that's the swing high that created the swing low that created a lower low when it closed below here. Right? That was your old H4 range low, range high, close below. There's your H4 bearish range. You just got an SFP on H4 into the bearish range high. So you put your stop somewhere here, maybe just above the daily level that it's been contending with recently. But you do have a valid short setup there. And with a pretty tight invalidation, right? Like how far away are we from that now? You know, you put your stop maybe a little bit above that. So you're looking at 3, 4, 5% of risk for that move. But you do have a valid short here. Like as much as it would be great to be like, okay, we're looking for reasons right now to get bullish, just Bitcoin's just not really in a place yet to give us that confidence to think that we're going to have a full-on bullish environment. It doesn't mean you can't look for bullish setups, but you should also just trade the chart. You got a bearish H4 SFP here, and it's starting to show follow through. Mohammed Taki says, GM verdict on Pendle. I mean, Pendle looks good. I was looking at it the other day. And Pendle is in that bucket of projects that I really like moving forward for crypto. It seems like projects that offer yield or facilitate yield, you know, projects like Athena, projects like Maker, projects like Pendle. I was speaking with some friends the other day, and I'm sort of the crypto market has emerged as two sort of sectors. It's either RWA, real world asset yield, or it's shitcoin speculation and the infrastructure for shitcoin speculation. Well, what falls into those brackets? For the stablecoin and RWA yield, you have things like Athena, Maker, Aave, Pendle. And on the other side of that, for the speculation, you have things like Hype. It's interesting that those coins are the ones that have been doing decently. You asked for Pendle, so let's take a look at the Pendle chart. Okay. Get rid of that. Zoom out a bit. Let's take a look at the daily. So daily, you had an SFP into supply. It's actually your 3-day supply, right? It's an area of 3-day supply because it's a bearish 3-day range. price actually came down and landed in, where was that from? Why is this not showing up on the other time frame? Let's do this. All intervals. Let's see. Was that a monthly level? Okay. So it came down into a monthly fair value gap. It's currently bearish weekly, but that's not unique to Pendle. That's many tokens on the market. It's had a nice move, but it's landed up in 3-day supply, showing signs of rejection as well on daily. You got an SFP of the daily bearish range high, but it's still looking pretty strong. And H4 did actually manage to put in an H4 higher high. This is your H4 range. And it closed above here. So I think if you get another move back down to here and you get an H4 SFP there or there on one of those, you could look to get long, but you need to be aware that the higher probability and higher time frame setup is still bearish, and it's up into the area where you'd be looking for a lower high to form. So the bulk of this move, the meat of that move, is mostly already captured, right? So it's in a bit of a tricky spot. Yes, it is looking much more bullish than a lot of other tokens. And this could be a potential project that if you're looking to accumulate on spot, anywhere down in this area is a good spot to be loading up. In terms of trying to long on perps, you can see how the intensity of the moves has started to sort of go sideways here, right? Like maybe it's doing something like here, but it's starting to go, instead of full throttle green, it's now started going yellow light, right? So you do need to be aware that it has run up into 3-day and daily supply. I think what you could be looking for is if you get an SFP up here and potentially even with another tag into daily, that's a pretty solid short. Or if you get an SFP down here or here, you could be looking for a long. Just looking in the chat, do you use fibs? Yes, I do, especially for new launches. Like on Solana, the 786 fib level is very, very common to use. I also use it for, fibbing like a daily range, although I don't use it as often on majors and perps as I do in the shitcoin realm. But there are times that I do, especially if you're looking like when we draw up the things like the Monday range. See, now what's interesting is on Pendle, it's above the Monday range, whereas Bitcoin, is back within the Monday range, right? And that's also just a fib level, right? Like that's the 50% fib of the Monday range. That's the 50%, 0. So that's a version of a fib. I do use fibs. Like if we wanted to just fib this H4 range, well, look at that. You had some confluence there with the H4 demand and the golden pocket, right? What are those? Those are those OTEs, those optimal trade entries. For anyone that's studied the ICT method, optimal trade entries are in that sort of lower third around the 66% level. Well, that's where it's come to and bounced from. So that's kind of interesting to take note of. I try not to use too much on my charts because I don't want to get like I do like my primary analysis the most. I don't like things to get too muddy, but they do add confluence, right? Like if you're looking at a level and you're like, oh, I don't know if that's somewhere where I would want to enter. Well, you can be looking for using things like fibs and stuff like that. And that is interesting, right? Like we did just clearly see into H4 demand, bullish H4 structure, a tag of the golden pocket. Can delete that there, right? But again, if Bitcoin can recapture this level here, I think you're looking for a long. Until then, it's kind of wait and see. Like you're late from this move. And does it just roll over here again? Or is it going to recapture? These, from here, I don't have a trade at the moment, but it doesn't mean that I'm not looking for trades. I'm just waiting for certain things to set up. Let's take a look at ETH real quick. ETH has come into a H4 fair value gap, and it's held the bottom. Right, it's bounced off the bottom of the fair value gap. If this holds, I mean, you could be looking for it to run back up into here. I don't know how many people are still trading ETH. It's been a really good short when Bitcoin looks like it wants to go lower. ETH has been a good beta short. Let's take a look at Solana real quick. Excuse me. So Solana is holding this monthly level here. Right? Like here's the monthly chart on Solana. It's into monthly demand. It's holding this monthly swing point here, that monthly level that's been important in the past. It's still a while until the monthly close, but if monthly closes like this, and as an SFP of that previous month, it's starting to look rather constructive, right? Like the thing is, Solana price action is highly reflexive to the amount of gambling taking place on the chain. And it's just been muted lately. That doesn't mean that it can't spring back to life. And they sort of go hand in hand. If Solana starts looking more bullish, then the trenches start heating up again. And it is holding that monthly level. Like you could be looking to long here and say if it closes back below that monthly level, then you cut. But you can see it's up into daily supply. Like this is your daily supply on Solana. Range high, range low, it's in the supply. It's kind of just feels like it's waiting on what Bitcoin wants to do, as so much of the market seems right now. And take a look at total 3 here again. Yeah, rejecting off supply. BTC still looking, or BTCD still looking like it might put in that SFP on daily there, right? And SFPs have been good triggers. Like the last time it put in an SFP on like a swing low SFP, it had good move. Here again, a good move. Well, are we getting one of those here? We are waiting to find out how this daily closes, because if this closes like this, it's either going to signify BTC is going to be the stronger coin to long, or if we're going to roll over, that alts are going to suffer harder. That's just how you use BTCD as a barometer. Four-hour is looking promising here on Bitcoin. But again, for me, get back above here, then you're triggered to go long. From here, who's to say this isn't tagged there and trade lower again? And I don't like taking a trade based on like a gamble roll. I like to take a trade based off of a probability. And right here at the moment, that probability just doesn't exist for the system that I use. But, some people might be using moving averages and stuff like that. And if you're using MAs or RSI or all those other indicators, and it's telling you that you have a long setup, by all means take it. It's just I don't trade that. I don't use those as part of my system to trade. Let's take a look. Are there any other coins to look at? I mean, we've looked at the bullish ones, right? Like Cake, bullish. Hype, bullish. Fart, bullish. If Bitcoin doesn't shit the bed here, then those would be coins I'd be looking to long on any meaningful pullback on like an H4 setup. I wouldn't be chasing longs right now, right? Like, is this setting up to put in a H4 swing high? In which case, you have time to look for an entry, because it's 3 hours until this would close, but you don't get that swing high until you get that 3 candle pattern, right? So it may not even be until tomorrow that you get some sort of entry down here on hype, but that wouldn't be a bad entry. Excuse me. And looking at FART once again, I think if H4 closes above here, though, because we haven't had any closes here, then you're looking to long that flip. Yeah, that's a nice move on Fartcoin. And the timeline's rallying behind it. So the only reason why I don't have it set up right now, like why I wouldn't be buying this here, is where's your invalidation on that? Where would you be determining your stop loss for a move like that, especially with how large those moves are and how volatile that is? Like, say you enter here and it decides that it wants to come down. Well, where's your invalidation? Maybe down here, right? Maybe it's down here. I mean, realistically, the H4 is all the way down here, right? So, like, you have to determine your risk parameters for what works for you, and just longing something like FART here, while it could continue to go up, the meat of that move has taken place that you want to be waiting for the next setups. Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap it up. We've done about 45 minutes here. Does anyone have any chart requests real quick before I hop off? I can even take a look at something on chain. Like I noticed that tcoin has been strong. I haven't been focused on the Solana trenches much lately, but I did notice on the ChainEDGE terminal that tcoin was on the trending section. So I opened up the chart. I was like, oh, that actually looks pretty good. Well, you got a daily higher high. It's come and retested that level. It's doing consolidation above the previous high. I mean, there's a chance that it could come back down into here. Right, like you had an H4 SFP at the top, at the highs, came back down. But if it holds here, you know, you could say, okay, if it loses this level, I'd cut, because then the next likely target would be somewhere in here. But it's not a bad spot to be looking to get to buy this token. GMX. Wow, I have not looked at that token in a long time. Is GMX available on? Oh, there we go. Let's take a look at GMX. Throwback token. I used to trade on GMX back in 2022, 2021, 2022. I mean, this is the monthly chart on GMX, right? I know they just launched their Solana. I know they just launched the Solana integration. I mean, this is a level you kind of want to see get recaptured before thinking you want to get long. I know you might be looking at that saying, well, that's a long move before recapturing, but you want to be capturing momentum and buying continuation and not catching a falling knife. Well, you did get a weekly SFP here. So if you wanted to take a trade with a clear invalidation, you could be buying here, and you put your stop down here just below that weekly wick. Let's take a look at a second. Take a look at the 3-day. Yeah, well, 3-day is bearish. Where would I even outline? Because your 3-day swing high is here. 3-day swing low is there. But I think you're saying to yourself, okay, if it can hold this weekly low, then you're looking for it to trade maybe back up into the 3-day high. You can take a look at daily. Okay, so daily put in a higher high, right? When it closed above here, which is similar to what Fartcoin did. 3-day may look like, not great, but it did put in a daily higher high, which is notable because not many coins in the market have put in a daily higher high. There's your daily demand. So you could be saying to yourself, okay, it's recaptured this weekly level. Daily made a higher high. There's your daily swing high. You can say to yourself, okay, buying in here, stop below the weekly level, looking for it to trade back up into the daily high. I mean, that's pretty good. That's not bad at all, right? Like, yeah, so you put your stop somewhere here, targeting up there, stop somewhere here. I mean, that's not bad at all, right? That's a decent looking trade. You define your risk. Probability is for daily continuation. That doesn't look bad at all. Thank you for drawing my attention to that. And yeah, like I said, if it loses the weekly level, then you just cut. With some vibes in the background, some beach sounding music vibes in the background. So yeah, there's a trade there on GMX. And when did the Solana integration go live? I think it must have been here, right? Like that must have been that candle. Well, you're looking for this daily demand to hold. Maybe it tags the weekly level one more time, but you do have a trade set up here. All right, everyone. Well, if there's no more requests or no questions at the moment, I am going to wrap it up. It's looking kind of, it's trying to recapture that level. If we can recapture that level before the daily closes, I think you have a good setup, a good trigger, because then you're bullish above there and you're neutral below. And since I don't see any more questions in the chat, I am going to wrap it up. Once again, I am 0xRapture, and this is Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette. I want to give a shout out to the sponsors of this show, The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com. 1 second. Let me pull those things up. thedailyedge.com/subscribe, which is a daily newsletter written by my friend onchain Wizard, which is a daily newsletter sent straight to your inbox for free, taking a look at the market from the day before. I highly recommend you go and subscribe to that as well. ChainEDGE.io, which is an on-chain analytics platform tracking the top 0.01% of DEX traders by profitability, where you can monitor the real-time flows of the top DEX traders across Solana and EVM chains. And on that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I do appreciate everyone that shows up, all the familiar faces and new faces alike. And I want you all to have a wonderful weekend, and I will provide updates. Oh, yeah, don't forget, you can find links in the About section below for this channel, depending on where you're joining from. If you're on Twitch, it's in the About section for the channel. If you're on YouTube, it is in the description. And if you're following along on X, you can just hop over to my X account and find the various links there to things like the AFM Telegram group, which is a community for and companion to these live streams, as well to the Daily Edge 0xRapture's Thoughts Telegram channel, where I write out my thoughts as the day goes on. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the show. Once again, I am 0xRapture, and I thank you for joining me. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend, everyone. Ciao.